Golf?
Yeah, because we are live streaming on YouTube now. So,
All right.
hey guys, hope everyone's had a good start to their spring season. Gonna go ahead and turn it over to our O5 group. But first, let's just recognize that we have our wonderful guest speaker. Some of you guys may be familiar with Matt Spear through if your teams have done soccer resilience work. So really excited to have him on, and he's gonna share a bit with us after the O5 share their piece. Let me go ahead and share screen. And we can get going. No, not that. There we go.
Sarah, can you just keep an eye on if any other kids try to get in as well? Thanks.
Yep, we'll do.
Okay, so I'll kick it off. We're the O5 cohort, and today we're going to talk about awareness of yourself and others. So this is going to include awareness of what you're saying, how you're saying something, your body language, as well as understanding your teammates and how they may react under, that's kind of under the awareness of others column. So if we can go to the next, yeah, one more. Yeah. There we go.
So the first part of self-awareness we're going to talk about is sugarcoating. This is defined by not giving your real opinions about a person's performance, regardless of whether you think it could use work or not. You'd only tell them what they want to hear. Despite the good intentions, this can actually be harmful to your teammates' future performances, because it's not going to help them improve. If they only hear the good things or never hear about what they could have worked on, they won't know if there are some things they could improve. So it's okay to be honest.
The next piece of kind of being aware of what you're saying is understanding if you're being overly critical. Realizing that sometimes being too critical of your teammates can actually be detrimental to them. Constantly giving negative feedback can hurt someone's play, and they can become self-conscious and second guess themselves. Another piece of being overly critical is every time somebody makes a mistake, not shoving it in their face. Most likely they already know that they did something wrong. They are the ones who made the mistake. Nobody's perfect. You make mistakes, they make mistakes. So understanding the timing of when to be critical and when not to is important.
There is a middle ground, however, to both of the methods described above. It uses elements of both in a way that can do a lot more to improve someone's performance without hurting their feelings. The first part of it is supplementing your criticism with a compliment. When you pair your criticism with a compliment, it eases the blow that your critique might have given them and reassures them that even though there's room for improvement, they still had a good performance. It's the process of breaking someone down and then building them back up again. There's nothing wrong with giving someone advice, but the important part is to make sure your criticism is constructive.
A way of being aware of what you're saying and kind of choosing what you're going to say is converting your criticism to advice. When someone makes a mistake, don't just tell them that they made a mistake. Give them information or a way of fixing it so that they don't make the mistake again. Finally, being aware of the timing for giving advice and the timing for giving encouragement. Sometimes a person just needs someone to pick them up and help them keep going after they've made a mistake. And sometimes they will need advice. They'll need information on how to correct the mistake that they've made. Understanding and being aware of when each of these should occur is really important. And we'll hand it off to Riley and Tess now.
All right, so we were mainly talking about tone of voice and how your tone can affect how you come off to someone. So knowing how you are speaking to your teammates and not only being overly critical and aggressive. So if you come off as aggressive to someone, like playing off of what Ella and Charlize said, like if you come off as overly aggressive, they're going to beat themselves up about it when the point of having a team is to build each other up. And another point is, once again, we can't tear others down. And if we come across as negative, it can also affect our entire team, which affects the whole game. And not all people respond in the same way to criticism or negative tone of voice. Other people can take it as almost positively and can build off of it and they'll work harder, and other people will beat themselves up about it. So I think knowing your teammates well enough to know how to communicate to them is really important.
For a positive tone of voice, giving criticism in a positive tone makes it easier to hear and act on. And by using a positive tone of voice, you can encourage your teammates to work harder and be stronger as a team and just put more effort in. And an example of this is if your team is losing a game and you're speaking in a positive tone and remaining positive, then that can encourage the rest of your team to be positive, and that can give them motivation to keep playing to win the game.
Okay, so we focused on body language, and Lydia's not here, so I'll be reading what she said. So one is the way you approach games in practice. So you need to make sure that you always get ready to give 100% as soon as you step on the field and on the way. Also, your positive body language gives off that you're ready to play instead of looking like you don't want to be there. And walking up confident and ready to play in practice is giving off positive body language. And if your opponent sees that maybe you're just like looking all like you're not ready to play, then they're going to assume that like you're going to be easy to get past and all that. And then approaching your teammates, your body language will show your teammates your confidence in being ready to play, win, and compete. And then an example would be if you approach the game in a bad attitude and slumped shoulders, then your teammates are going to see that and you're not really wanting to be there, instead of approach the game with the intention to win and play. And also your body language could start affecting like other people's how they're ready to play and their mindset towards the game based off of yours.
I'm going to be talking for both me and Haley because Haley is not here. I'll be talking about how your teammates react to comments. There are a lot of important details of how to see how your teammates react and all that stuff. Being honest with your teammates is very a key factor because you want to be honest, not tell them or like sugarcoat them of what they did wrong or something. Being open, telling them how like you feel and how like you feel about what they're doing and something. Being able to talk to them, that's a very big key factor, because if you're not able to talk to them, you're not going to be a good leader because you're not able to speak up and say what needs to be improved. Being aware of your teammates, always be aware of what's going on around them and how they're reacting. That's what we're going to get into. How they react to a bad call by refs. You would rather see like their body language, or like if they're getting upset and it's like putting them out of the game, taking their head out of the game, you'd go up to them and say something to help them feel more confident instead of feeling bad about it. How do they react to doing something wrong? Like say we're in practice and they do something wrong and then they start to feel bad about it. Just go up to them and say, hey, we all make mistakes. There's no need to worry. We can improve. Let's just try to get better. And then how they react to others around the game. So if they're having bad problems with another teammate or someone off the other side, you just try to go and calm them down, tell them it's your game and it's all about you. Just play how you play and don't react to others. Being positive, very key factor with your teammates, because you never want to be negative in a hard situation. So like say, if we're down 2 goals or something and like everybody's like, oh, we can't come back from this and all that stuff, you want to try to say, oh, we can get better. Come on, be positive, guys. We can win. We can come back. We need to get better, and we need to start to come together and be better as a team to come back and win.
Okay, so that is our presentation, but I just want to emphasize that what was already presented by the group, that self-awareness, how you're saying something, what you say, and your body language can either be harmful or helpful to yourself and your teammates. So being aware of these aspects of your play and leadership can help your team move on and improve.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Any questions from the group or comments?
I think it was delivered very well. Communication was awesome. A lot of thought went into this presentation, and I appreciate everything from the O5s for putting this together. That was awesome.
Yeah, good job, guys. And you're talking about a tricky thing, right? Because every teammate, every person's going to respond to things a little bit differently. So it does take a lot of patience. It takes a lot of empathy. It takes a lot of knowing your teammates to be able to communicate effectively. And a lot of self-awareness is really critical there. So good job, guys. All right, so next up we have Matt Spear, who is going to share with us a little bit about a couple different topics, I think, from peeking at his presentation. Matt, would you like me to share, or can I make you the host? That way you can kind of prompt at your own pace.
If you can try to allow me to share it, Sarah, that'd be great.
Let's see. Can definitely try. All right, there you go.
Whoops. One sec. All right. Can you guys see it and can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I am so grateful for your time today, ladies, and incredibly impressed by that last presentation. Frankly, it's a pretty tough act to follow. I'm thankful for Greg Ashton for a longtime friendship and for telling me about this program. I wish I had this when I was your age, but I'm so impressed by your club and by you guys to do this and make this commitment. I realize I'm probably the one thing stopping you from starting your weekend. So we'll have some fun together. I'm hopeful that you'll get involved a little bit. Sarah, I may occasionally ask you to type something into the chat if I think of something that I don't have on the slide, just as a kind of another leave behind. But please, ladies and coaches, if you want to say anything or ask a question or share a story about anything that comes up, I really hope you do that. The other thing before we get started on the slides is, I know it's Friday, you probably had a long week of school or work for the adults, etc. So if we can just take a pause and everybody take a really deep breath, do it on your own. And then we'll do one more. And then when you inhale, think about stress or things on your mind. And when you exhale, just let it all out. One more deep breath. Awesome. All right. So Soccer Resilience, quick introduction for the folks that don't know anything about us. We've been with the club for about 3 months now and super excited about being involved in your life and your growth. Ladies first, I'll talk about Jessica. Jessica McDonald, if you don't know, is a World Cup champion for the 2019 World Cup, 2-time NCAA champion at UNC, and 3-time NWSL champion. We just added her 2 weeks ago. She is an equal partner for the other 3 partners. We really want to do our part to empower women and empower persons of color. And we picked the perfect person for that. She's an incredible story of resilience and life. Dr. Brad Miller, far left. The greatest thing about him to me personally is that we were club teammates when we were your age. We grew up in Winston-Salem, came through the Twin City program that is now morphed into NC Fusion, a rival of you guys, so to speak. But we played together. He played at Wake Forest in college, was an ACC champion. And while he was a college coach, he had serious performance anxiety issues. And I tell you that because that inspired him to want to become a psychologist. So now he and his wife are both psychologists. They have 2 kids. He has his own practice. He lives in San Diego. And he was the one that kind of had the first idea to do this Soccer Resilience. The second partner to come in is Wells Thompson. Wells is also from Wake Forest, from Winston-Salem, played at Wake Forest, but younger than Brad and I. Incredible story of resilience himself. He will tell this story if you haven't heard from him yet on any of our presentations. His high school days were ravaged by drugs and alcohol. Basically, he was at the bottom. As he talks about it, he says that I grew up a country club kid, but I lived under a bridge. He was literally that far down in life, and had to get into an institution and come out of it. And it's a really turnaround story. Walked on to Wake Forest, and then became the 5th overall draft pick, MLS Cup champion, US Cup champion, 9-year pro. And what he'll tell you is most proud of is being Humanitarian of the Year award in MLS. I played at Davidson. I grew up in Winston-Salem, coached with Greg Ashton. Greg was the women's coach, and I was the men's coach. We worked together side by side, known him for a long time, really value his friendship. Had a great time coaching college soccer. I know some of you guys are considering to play college soccer. I encourage it. Had some success there, but 2 years ago, I decided to leave the college game. Was invited up to Richmond, Virginia, because 5 of my Davidson teammates bought a pro soccer team called the Richmond Kickers. And I was up there, started to turn around a little bit, finished the season out in October, and then joined Soccer Resilience. So a little bit about us. All right, so talking about leadership first. Look at that image, just read that sentence to yourself and think about that. Doesn't matter who that is, happens to be Jurgen Klopp talking to a tiny Shaqiri. But who likes to be told what to do? When you think about leadership, you like to be yelled at or talked down to? Of course not. So let's look at several leaders. All these leaders are very, very unique. And you'll know some of them and you won't know some other ones. Sorry, I think Luis is trying to get back in. Hang on. Don't know if I can do that. Let's look at some leaders here for some examples. First of all, Bill Belichick. He's kind of that quintessential guy coach, right? Looks like kind of like a curmudgeon, you know. He's a football guy. You know, he's always kind of growling and scowling. He's very into kind of X's and O's. Been very successful, obviously, in American football. This is a guy, another sport, different sport, still on the men's side for now. I've got some female coaches coming up, but a guy named Phil Jackson, who I really respect, most NBA championships. I absolutely love basketball, almost as much as I love soccer. And if you get a chance, Sarah, maybe type this into the chat, write in Phil Jackson, Sacred Hoops. Great, great book. I reread it recently. I'm actually having my 13-year-old read it right now. At least he says he's reading it. It's by his bedside table. Who knows if he is or not. But it's a great book because it talks about mindfulness. And it talks about coming together, we over me. And it talks about letting the game be the teacher and what really draws you together. So another soccer coach, Jurgen Klopp, you saw the big image of him earlier in my presentation. Big smile, you know, a lot of emotion, very much a player's coach. He's got his arm around Jordan Henderson, his captain. He's smiling. You can feel that warmth and that energy between those two. So Jill Ellis, great story about her. You know, parents are English. She came over. She played college soccer in the States, went up through the college ranks, which is one way you can go into national team and pro soccer. Not everybody does that way this day and age, but she kind of has that traditional way of going through the college game. If you could type in, Sarah, Netflix, The Playbook. She is one of 5 or 6 coaches that are profiled there. And one thing about Jill I really respect, and she talks about it in her story, when she was at UCLA, her big decision whether to come out and tell her team, and then she introduced her team to her partner, and it was a big moment for her in her life. Dawn Staley's also featured and profiled in that Playbook series. A great example of coming through the American basketball ranks as an amazing player. She was a national champion player at University of Virginia, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, longtime WNBA player, and then a national champion at University of South Carolina. So hopefully you're getting kind of different kinds of leaders, different kinds of people that do things. Becky Hammon, another interesting leader. You know, the first full-time coach in the NBA, first female full-time coach with the San Antonio Spurs. which I love. And I know that Greg Ashton does as well, because he lived and coached in San Antonio for a while. But she also went out and played for Russia in the Olympics. She was a pro player over there, got her citizenship, and then went up that way. And then Ted Lasso, classic coach. If you have Apple TV, if you don't, I encourage you to try it for $4.99 and watch the story of Ted Lasso. This is a spoof. It's a joke. I just threw this in there. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't have Apple TV, I recommend you just watch the trailer. It's pretty comical. And it's based on this fictional team in England Premier League called AFC Richmond. And they bring over this American football coach. And of course, it's hilarious and shambles and makes fun of Americans, and obviously celebrates the English because they know everything about soccer, right? I'm just kidding. And one more example, Pep Guardiola's been at Barcelona, Bayern Munich, now at Man City. And take a second just to read that quote. So as good of a coach he is, and he's a different kind of coach from everybody else that's been listed so far, just like all the coaches on this call and in the club are all very different and unique because they have different stories and different backgrounds and different theories. You know, Pep's kind of the game model guy. He's very much of a tactician. If you think of Barcelona in their heyday, when they won all those great championships and Champions Leagues, he was kind of the maestro of all that. All right, so question for you to think about. You don't have to say it out loud, but are you a leader? And hopefully you said yes, or you said, I would like to be a leader. Because in my opinion, everybody can be a leader. I'm not big on the nature versus nurture side of being a leader. I think everybody can be a leader. Everybody can be a servant. Everybody can be an influencer. All right. And to me, leadership is really just doing your best. And as a result, you're setting a model for others around you. And a leader doesn't mean, I didn't say, are you the best player on your team? Are you the fastest player on the team? Are you the funniest player on the team? It doesn't matter what level of skill you have to be a leader. There's leaders in all shapes and sizes. And every great team is made of different parts. And they can all lead in their own way. So I would challenge you to think of yourself as a leader in your team, even if you're not the best player. Even if maybe you're the weakest player, because you can still lead in your own way. Are you perfect? Are you the finished product? Hopefully you're saying no, because I never say that. I'm 50 years old. I've been a leader in various organizations and institutions that I've worked at, but I'm always learning and always improving and always reading and sharing and just kind of getting more to myself and becoming more self-aware. I made so many mistakes as a coach, and Greg saw many of them because we were side by side talking about them. Just examples, that can get in your way of coaching or being a leader or being a player that's a leader. For me, I think of so many off-field influences that kind of drew me away from being a good leader. One example is I had a boss one time and I really disagreed with him, and it got in my head. He was in my head, and it was just too much in my head thinking about that, where I could have been focused on just being positive and joyful and doing my job the best of my ability, which is to impact people. Internal validation. Sometimes leaders, they want to look good. They want to feel that they did the right thing, but they're not really thinking about what other people think about them. So I challenge coaches and players and people to ask for feedback. Like, how am I delivering my message? Is it clear? Is it positive? So we want to be externally validated. A promoter versus a cultivator. Everybody, in my opinion, should be a mentor. You guys can be mentors at your age. And coach can be a mentor to you, or you can have other mentors in your life, whether it be a teacher or an older brother, an older sister, a parent, an uncle. Anybody in your life can be a mentor, and you can mentor people that are older than you as well. And the reason I say all that is one of my mentors is a guy named Jeff Moore, who won NCAA women's tennis championships at the University of Texas, is now a leadership consultant. And when he would analyze me and look at me as a leader, he would say, Matt, you need to cultivate more than you promote. You can't just say things, you actually got to act them out and activate them. And then lastly, win or lose. Really easy as a coach or as a player to focus so much on winning or losing. We really should focus on our culture and our process and our performance, and let the result take care of itself. Because a lot of times we really can't control the outcome. So leadership qualities, just take a moment to read those and think about yourself. And then take a moment to read back through the list, and someone that you respect as a leader, or someone maybe that's a leader in your life that's not really doing well, and think about those qualities. Go through the list again. Do they do these things? What does it look like in both in you and now in somebody else? Leadership's really changed since guys like Neil and Greg and Rusty and I played and had leaders above us, teaching us. It's not top down anymore. I know this age group, and you want to feel like you're involved. And there's, I think Sarah used the word empathy. That's a great word. And they want to feel like their leaders can connect. So that's that, relationship based and being authentic and even vulnerable and telling people that you're not perfect and you make mistakes. I had some really tough mental game stuff in my head, and I shared it with Greg in a really personal way on another call. It's important to open up to people, and then you're more authentic. Be a teacher, be a servant. Those are really good ways. And then last but not least, particularly for the males in this group, we got to listen better. We got to say, how are you doing? And back off and not try to fix. All right, so talk a little bit about soccer resilience. I think it actually has an impact on you guys as leaders. Hang on, guys. I'm going to try to let a couple people in. Hopefully they got in now. So every athlete trains their body. What about their brain? Okay, do you think about that a little bit? And I'm going to tell you why I think it's really important. This is, I don't have to say anything. I'll just let Jill kind of emphasize it for me. So I had that slide of Jill earlier as women's national team coach. Now she's moved out after winning 2 World Cups. And if you haven't read, I'm so thrilled to hear the last couple of days, she's been named a really high level executive position with the Sacramento incoming pro team there. All right, so we really believe soccer resilience, and as I talk to more and more with the coaches there at the club, that the psychological piece, the mental piece, the emotional piece, everything in your head and your heart is really, really vital. We think it's as important, actually, as all that work you do on your skills and tactics and athleticism. So a little bit of sports psychology. I know it's Friday. I don't want to go through a long class, and I'm not trying to be Dr. Brad Miller and be a psychologist, but I've learned a lot through him and through this process of building out soccer resilience and the curriculum for you and the club and otherwise. A couple things to think about. I look at the brain as the top of the waterfall, in that everything flows down from your brain to the rest. So it controls your things like your thoughts and your emotions and your mood and your motivation, whether you're sad or whether you're happy, all these things. All right. So that's why it's really important to think about what you're thinking and honor those thoughts. Okay. Next thing is, it's important to understand that the mind, the brain, has an inherent negative bias. And that's because the number one job of the brain is to keep you alive. So it's always looking out to protect you. But the problem is that ends up being false alarms for things that really shouldn't get you down, but they do. Whether it be sadness or disappointment or fear, we have to honor those thoughts and feelings, but then we have to handle and deal with them because they're not life-threatening. All right. So we don't want to judge or spiral down our feelings. So then it really flows into our mood, our emotion, our motivation, and ultimately our performance. So we want to think about things as a growth mindset. Sarah, if you could type in the name Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K. Carol Dweck is an amazing author, amazing professor. She wrote the book literally called Growth Mindset. She's got a TED Talk, or you can just pull up Growth Mindset. It's something that I use with a lot of teams and a lot of athletes. So think about you as a player. Maybe you're a coach in the call, thinking about your players, think about your teammates. Do we do these things sometimes? Just think about it a little bit. Yeah, right. We've all done that as a player, as a coach, or as life. There's things that happen. That's what I'm talking about, that negative bias and self-talk. We get discouraged and we get upset if we don't do as well. And we lose our poise. We lose our confidence. It's really important to honor that, because that's going to happen to every athlete at every level in whatever you do in life, whether it be parenting or running a business or working with somebody. Those things are going to happen. Now, do we wish we could go this way? So can we harness and channel a good forward path? That's what we want to think of. How can we be constructive with our thought and our brain, and as a leader and as a player? So here's a quote from Alex Morgan. Read that. So a lot of the work we're doing with the team, some of you guys I've already spoken with, just so you know, can again congratulate the club for bringing in Soccer Resilience and making that commitment to holistic well-being and really involving mental and mindfulness. Is we do 4 webinars, a progression of webinars we're doing with 30 boys and girls teams currently this winter. And we're wrapping that up. I've got 3 back to back after this call with girls teams, 2 of Kate's teams and 1 of Chad Metzler's teams. And then hopefully in the next chapter later in the spring, we'll do it with more teams, and then we'll even go a little bit deeper with the teams we've already worked with. But you see this quote from Alex, a world player, you know, just a national team player, a true pro, that she's focusing on these things, on how to be positive and using things like breathing. Here are the 4 pillars, and I'm going to go through them briefly on a couple of different slides after this. This is how we do this process. We focus on take control. That steering wheel, all right? Trying to get a little bit more control of our brain, honor our emotions, honor our thoughts, realize that what's going on in our head is racing all the time, and can we slow down those thoughts? And one way to do that is by visualization and breathing. I'll mention that in a couple slides after this. Then we want to be able to develop our purpose. The people that have been on the sessions with me, we talk about it. Why do you play soccer? We have a slide, and you guys list out the reasons why you play. And then how can you apply that to be a really good soccer player? All right, what does that look like from an affirmation and a goal standpoint? And that will then build perseverance, which is the same thing as resilience, same thing as grit. Type in, if you don't mind, Sarah, Angela Duckworth, just like it sounds. Angela Duckworth, another great female author, professor, wrote a book called Grit. And with all of her amazing study, she determined, with all these successful people and all these different backgrounds and experiences, that grit, otherwise known as perseverance and resilience, is the #1 skill for a person to have for life of fulfillment and success. And then lastly, how does this enhance your performance? We want you to play clear and confident, all right, and not with a cluttered mind. So a quick thought there. Take a second to read that. As Wells Thompson says, we want to get you to do what he was unsuccessful to do. This is a 9-year pro looking back on his career, and he had tremendous performance anxiety when he was an MLS player. And we get terrified sometimes in games, and he would get totally upset if he wasn't starting. Is that the idea that we have this kind of stuff going on in our head and gets in our way. We want to play clear-headed. So breathing, just a quick statement there. You can read that to yourself. It is the fastest and most effective way to turn on your brain and calm your mind. It can be used in so many different environments. It could be as easy, you're having a hard time falling asleep, just take some really deep breaths. Could be right before a penalty kick. It could be right before a test. It could be right before you go into a practice and really want to get centered in your car before you walk out there and kind of get rid of some stuff behind you've been thinking about and ruminating, and have a clear mind so you're intentional and focused going into it. Great thing to start your day as well. The visualization piece. You always want to visualize yourself doing well. So we won't do a whole breakout thing because it's Friday. I don't want to take too much of your time. But when I coached at Davidson the last few years, at the end of our pregame meal, we had a pregame meal 3.5 hours for the game. At the end of pregame meal, I'll say, all right, guys, let's do mindfulness meditation. And I would just have them calm down and close their eyes and breathe, and then remove the clutter from everything else in their head to get dialed into what they want to think about for the game. What's their role? What's a great play in their head? How they want to help their teammates? Just to be able to have positive visualization. You're going to more have to do what you think about, right? So if you think positively and making good plays, all right, you're more apt to do them because your brain's going to actually be trained. Just the same thing about affirmations. The more you tell yourself positive self-talk and visualizing success, the brain will have neural pathways that will follow that. So a quote there from, I think, the greatest of all time on the women's side, just my opinion. So that third pillar we had on the soccer resilience, which is develop perseverance. This really says this from Mia Hamm. Failure happens all the time. We don't want to lose game. We don't want to miss a penalty kick or let a ball go by us if we're a goalkeeper, but mistakes happen every single day. So we don't seek them out, but we understand they're just part of life. If you watch a pro game, you'll see your best player, your favorite player make mistakes. If you really think about it, no one has a perfect game. Nobody has a perfect day. So as tough stuff comes along, can we just say, okay, I'm moving on and I'm not going to sit here or I'm going to be dragged down by it. Success is a windy road, right? You're going to have ups and downs, and that's where this idea of resilience comes in. You're going to have injuries. A lot of the calls I've been doing with the boys and girls teams, usually someone says, you know, Matt, I've got an injury. How'd you get through an injury? And I'm like, wow. If I could tell you about Jessica McDonald in her very first pro game, she completely wrecked her knee. The doctor said she would never play soccer again. 18 months later, she got back on the field. And then 5 years later, after playing for literally 5 teams over 6 years and being traded all over the place and having a kid and being the first NWSL mom, she finally made the national team in her late 20s and a World Cup champion at 30. So it is a windy road to get where you want to go. A good quote from Josie Altidore, longtime U.S. national team player. He came to the mental piece later in his career. I've read a lot about him and a lot of other pro athletes that are coming into it later in their career, because it's becoming much more normal now. It's one of those things where guys like me and Neil and Rusty and Greg, you know, when we were coaches coming up, you know, gosh, 20, 30 years ago, all these little kind of subcategories started, kind of blossoming. You know, first it was physical conditioning, and then it was nutrition, and then it was yoga, and then it was, therapy and recovery, and all these things have gone along. And finally, we're getting to the point now where mindfulness and the importance of the brain is really coming to the forefront. It's been a little later, but it's coming along. It's a quote from Jill Ellis there. And I like this quote. It talks about the aspiration, the intention of the national team, what they want to do each day. Always looking forward to a challenge, embracing competition. I love that word, dominate. Before we move on from 2020, and we have on the calendar, but I think it's important for you guys just to honor and reflect on how challenging it was. Because sometimes we just kind of push past things. And these are just examples of things that were challenges. And these came from the calls that I've been doing with the teams. And I started to list things out and put on this list. Some of these might have been more impactful for some of you than others. But it's been a lot. It's been heavy. It's been, we just don't know what's going to happen. And that's the hard part, the uncertainty, to realize how hard it's been, how much it's changed. And that's impacted mental health. If you're anything like me, you've had some anxiety or some depression or some loneliness or some isolation, some worry. You probably have had some or all of that. We all have. And it's okay to look back and go, gosh, we got through that. What are we going to learn? Strategies to help think about being healthy and optimistic. I like the dog. It's usually my dog. It's not my dog this time. Take a moment to read those, and we're almost done, ladies. You guys have been great. Gratitude is a really big piece that we focus on in Soccer Resilience. For the teams, the girls are going to be with me in tonight's sessions. I'm giving you a little bit of a heads up, but we'll talk about gratitude at the end. What are you thankful for? Do you have a gratitude practice? Do you journal? Do you send a text to a friend and say you're thinking about them? Do you write a letter to your grandmother? Do you pray? Do you go around the dinner table and talk about what went well that day, or what you care about each other? Gratitude is such a really good word. Take a read of that quote. I read this actually this morning. I found it really interesting to think about going into this call. Female professor from Harvard. And it goes back to some earlier slides, that it has been hard. And how does that impact leadership? How does that impact ambition? Can we pivot? Can we learn? Can we be better through some weird, hard, scary times? Great questions for you guys to think about. And the work that you guys are doing with these monthly calls are tremendous to actually put that out there. the best part that I learned, I loved all that you said earlier about your presentation, ladies. The one that I really applaud is body language. Body language is critical. All right. Think about that. When you talk to somebody, make sure you can have eye contact. I don't know why it's a lost art. Handshaking's out right now because of the pandemic, but eye contact is absolutely critical to connect with somebody. Also, shoulders back and straight spine. All right, especially when you're playing a soccer game. If you're sloughed over, always looking down, that body language is going to impact your mood and people think about you and how you perform. So I love that point about body language earlier. Last couple slides here. I like this one, just kind of covers a lot of the things that we've talked about today. A lot of things we're trying to do with the club and the players and the coaches with Soccer Resilience. I love that Megan Rapinoe moment there. It's probably in the pregame, it's probably during the national anthem. She's still got her jacket on. What is she doing? She's dialed in. She's visualizing what she's going to do. Growth mindset, talked about that earlier. Carol Dweck, top right, I can do things. Try to say, get away from I have to do something and try to say, I get to do something. Have a positive outlook what you do each day. And then that idea of gratitude with Jessica McDonald, right after she won the World Cup in France in 2019, she's looking up maybe for her son, Jeremiah, maybe for her grandmother, maybe she's looking at a crowd, maybe she's just soaking it all in, just like that journey she's been in to be grateful and to share that with someone else. As most of you know, we have a talk coming up with Jessica that it's going to be pretty neat. We're going to be this Sunday, and then we, lo and behold, realized there's this small event going on called the Super Bowl. You ever heard of that? So a lot of people said, I would love to take part in it, but I can't. So Jessica is going to be doing a team talk. If you have a phone and you want to hit that QR code, it'll actually shoot you to the information page. Doesn't make you pay for it, but just gives you the information. And soccerresilience.com has more information on that. I think it's been going out through the various social channels as well. But February 21st, 7:00, her story of resilience is incredible. And this is it. Last slide. And I'm open for questions or any comments. You have my email address right there. I want to be a resource for you guys moving forward. Soccer Resilience is across, all the basic social media channels. I'll point out YouTube in particular. We have over 25 videos on our YouTube, which is folks like me and Wells Thompson and Dr. Brad Miller and Jessica, just short, up 5 minutes max videos with tips about resilience and about our career, what we've learned through our career. The other thing, that QR code is a different one than the last one. If you want to get our weekly message of resilience, it's an email that goes out on Monday morning. 2 weeks ago, it really featured Jessica and a lot about her story. And if you get it, you can see they're all archived as well, so you can get the past ones. This past Monday, it really focused on more of the pro game, which I think a lot of you guys would find curious and interested. We just signed a partnership with a pro agency, so we'll actually be doing the same talks we've been doing with the youth teams with Charlotte Independence. We'll be doing now with pro players as well. All right, guys, I'll close up shop here. Questions, thoughts, anything you want to ask about?
Matt, we have all these cohort meetings with our age groups monthly as well, and this is that awkward time when nobody talks.
I'm sure. It's hard to talk in front of this setting. I'd rather be in person. It's so much easier when you're in person. I'll ask the ladies, what is one takeaway, all right, you took from that talk that I just gave? Was there a word or a phrase? Who wants to say one thing that maybe kind of got in your head?
I can.
Go ahead.
I think when you were talking about like not dwelling on your mistakes and kind of like identifying them and learning from them, but then kind of releasing them in a sense and letting it go so that you can move on and you can like keep playing, but still understanding what you did wrong. I think that was like kind of really important.
Yeah, thanks, Ella. We get so just focused on what's bad and what happened to us, and we make it so personal that we can't step away. We do this exercise with the teams where we actually show a photo. Goes to been on this session with me, is we show a photo of U.S. men's national team players on the bench, and we talk about what's their body language, what are they thinking about? Has that ever happened to you? Been on the bench, and all the players admit, like, gosh, if coach Rusty or Greg or Neil or Sarah or Kate tells me on Friday I'm starting, and I get to the field and all of a sudden I'm not starting, what do? Oh, we're so down. We think we're terrible. We think we just messed up, where it could have been 1,000 other things, and we don't need to think about it too much. We need to think about, all right, positive body language. I'm coming off the bench. I'm going to make an impact. I'm going to prove that guy wrong. Whatever it is, make it constructive. All right. So it's really how we explain. It's called the self-explanatory theory. It's not the situation is necessarily bad. It's how we explain it to ourselves. And we can take that as an opportunity to get better. Anybody else?
Yeah, another thing that you talked about that I thought was really cool was training your mind and then your body will follow.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important in soccer too.
Yeah. Can you think of an example like that? Is that Reese? Yeah. What do you think?
I think like being ready mentally before you go into a game. So knowing that you have to like obviously preparing your body, like hydrating and stuff, but then also saying, okay, this is who we're playing tomorrow. I need to make sure that I can be there for my team. So I think that part of it too.
That is awesome. If I could leave you something like the day of a game, when you wake up and you're having breakfast, just write down 2 or 3 things that you want to accomplish in that game. Maybe something the coach told you. Rusty might have said, hey, I need you to get down the wing before you serve. Don't hit early services, attack that inline. Or it could be, Greg said, you need to win every aerial ball coming through. Think about that, write that down, visualize it. And I promise you, the more you write it down, the stickier it gets in your head. And again, that whole neural pathway things. And at the minimum, some of you guys are old enough to drive. I can't tell what age you are, but whether your mom or dad give you a ride to practice or you drive, when you get there, if you can take 5 seconds, 5 minutes, whatever it is in between there, and just say, this is what I'm going to do today in practice. All right. And then you walk on the field with some intentions. We don't do that enough. Right. A lot of times we think we're present, we think we're mindful, but science says that about half of our time, waking time, we're unaware. Like we don't know what we're doing. How many times you've been driving your car and you're like, whoa, I just drove like 2 miles and I don't remember that at all. So being more aware and being more present, that's what the pros can do. That's what Steph Curry can do. He can miss 5 shots in a row. All right. It doesn't matter. It's the next shot because he just has really short-term memory when he's an athlete. Same thing with you. If you're a striker, you may only get 3 or 4 chances in a game. You can't let those first 3 misses impact that 4th one. You got to be ready for that 4th one. Anybody else?
The part where you were talking about like having a pregame ritual or meditation really stuck with me, like the Alex Morgan quote where she was saying the best mood to go into a game with is like one of being calm and peaceful. That really sticks with me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's okay to have butterflies. I have butterflies right now speaking in front of a large group. That's totally fine. But the more you do it, the more you realize it's just part of life. And I think you're right. Like, what Alex said is just to honor those emotions, but then slow it down a little bit. If our heart rate's really high all the time, it's actually not healthy for our system because it's so focused on breathing. If you can slow down your breathing and take some space in between breaths and between thoughts, you'll actually be a lot sharper with your thoughts and your actions. And you'll be able to control and deal with emotions as they come up. It's so important. I think pregame is really important. Writing things down, having affirmations. And then what happens is, and if you can predict we have this triple P thing we do with the teams. It's predict, plan, and practice. To think about hard things that have happened to you, maybe soccer related or otherwise, and then actually put a plan together. So maybe your team, maybe one game you had a red card early, terrible call, and everybody got down. Just their heads were out and you lost 5-0. All right, next time, let's think a little more clearly. We know what we can do. The coach gave us formation. We're going to go to 4-4-1 or whatever the formation, the shape is. We practiced, we've done it before. Now we're going to do it. Your best player goes out injured, or you have to change positions in the middle of the game. All these little kind of nuances of shifting and changes. How do you take those setbacks is really kind of like the growth part of it. Anybody else? All right, guys. Well, you got my contact information, or you can get it from the coach. If I can be a resource for you moving forward, I'm hopefully going to be able to work with you guys online, hopefully in person sometime, see you play. I live in Cornelius. I'm the one local guy in Soccer Resilience. Jessica plays for the Courage, and so she's over in the Raleigh area. Wells Thompson is over in the Raleigh area, and then Brad Miller's out on the West Coast in San Diego. So I'm around here. Hope to see you guys. Thank you for your time today, and I'm honored and impressed by what you guys are doing. All you coaches, this is a great club. You guys are in a tremendous environment. People that really think and feel about you. Hopefully you'll stick with soccer. Hopefully you'll stick with these friendships because they really do matter. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sarah, you want to close it out?
Looks like we're all peacing out, but I'll send a follow-up email just to kind of wrap up and stuff like that.
Bye.
All right.
There's still 5 of us.
Yeah. It's all good.
Coaches.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, well done, boys. Have a good weekend.
Well,
Yeah,
he starts that next chat at 5 o'clock, so he's like grabbing a drink of water and going again.
Yeah,
He's got 3 more hours with us. With
All
the
right.
he's got more
yeah.
energy than I do. Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
having
that guy.
He's having another coffee.
Is that number 5 for the day?
At least. At least. All right, guys. Have a good
Take care.
weekend. See you.
Thank you.
Good luck, Kate.
See you
See ya.
guys.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.